Welcome to the British History series. If you love British history, then you're definitely in the right place. So stick around for today's episode with me, Philippa Lacey Brewell. On the 9th of March 1566, Mary, Queen of Scots, witnessed the brutal murder of her private secretary, David Rizzio, in her private apartments at the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh. Mary, Rizzio and another few of her closest servants had been taking supper in a small chamber off the main bedchamber. The murderers, recognisable nobles from court, had come up the private stairs from her husband Darnley's apartments, which were below, to accost Rizzio, and they insisted that he go with them. He refused. He was petrified. He held on to Mary's skirts as he was attacked. Accounts vary, but it could have been that he actually took a couple of stab wounds whilst he was still trying to desperately cling to Mary's skirts before he was dragged out of the room. And he sustained, Mary said 56 stab wounds, between 50 and 60 stab wounds, and his body was left at the bottom of the private stairs. Now, if you go to the Palace of Holyrood House, which I would thoroughly recommend, the apartments there are as Mary would recognise them. But what is really funny is if you go out of her apartments, there's another room attached to it. It's a little while since I went, but I remember on the floor there is a red patch. And this red patch had the desired effect on me when I first saw it for the first sort of split second. It was like, because I knew about the Rizzio murder. Oh my goodness, there's like a blood stain on the floor. And then cognition kicked in and thought that can't quite be possible, and it's not actually where his body was left. It was it turned out to be red boot polish that Victorian room guides, or the Victorian, they weren't officially room guides then, people who were paid to show people around the house, they'd put the red boot polish there to sort of add some detail and some colour to the story of the Rizzio murder. But why did they want to murder Rizzio? Well, Rizzio had come to court a few years earlier as a musician to the ambassador of the Duke of Savoy. So that is quite a step up from musician to an ambassador to being the Queen's private or confidential secretary. And you don't do that without causing enemies at court. And this is what happened. Mary, for her part, was also making enemies at court. And her behaviour was making the nobles very nervous, especially the Protestant ones. 3 of them had been called to trial on the 12th of March, so these events immediately preceded them. Mary was at this time married to Lord Darnley, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, Earl of Bothwell. Now, he was not a nice character. He was certainly not a good husband, and the moment pretty much that they were married, all this came out. He was violent, he was a womanizer, he drank too much, and he was extremely power hungry. He expected to be declared king on his marriage to Mary. And so he was also an easily manipulated character. And when the nobles who were going to be brought to trial basically contacted him, got him involved in a plot basically to rid them of Rizzio and to scare Mary and to put Mary back in her place. Mary, you can't act like that. This is how it's going to be, etc., etc. Read into it. So this murder, not only was it gruesome, but Rizzio was kind of the sacrificial lamb, if you like, to the demonstration of the nobles, of their power and of what they were willing, the lengths that they were willing to go to keep Mary under control. Mary's husband was present, but he didn't stab Rizzio. However, his dagger was used and his dagger was left in the body so that Darnley could not persuade anyone that he had had nothing to do with the murder.